Well, that's false advertising. If you haven't been following along with my Falcon project, I'm making this as a separate video. I'm going to talk a little bit about these upper control arms for the Falcons and Mustangs 66, 67 and on. I'm having a lot of trouble with these, getting ones that'll work. I'm going to show you what the problem is here. There is too much material on the back side of these control arms where they pivot. You can see the difference there. And this piece winds up contacting the shock tower when the bolts are tightened, and it won't pivot. It locks it into place. It's absolutely not usable. Now, you can't really just trim this because this is a bent flange here, which adds strength to this part. And if you were to take that off, if you were to remove this and cut this back, you run the risk of this cracking. I think that would be a real problem. So this is the original, that's the replacement, and this is a Moog, but it is, I believe, the exact same part that Dorman sells. It looks the same. They're both made in Taiwan, and while it does have different numbers ink printed into the back side, the Dorman one had different numbers. I do believe that they are in fact the exact same part from the same factory. So, aftermarket upper control arms do not fit in my experience. This is 2 sets I've tried. The only way that they would work is if you shim these out, and if you do that, then you're moving all of your ball joint measurement. Would actually be making it positive camber, I believe, which would not be good. So unless you can reuse your existing control arms, these are useless. Now, I don't know why I'm the only guy that seems to be having this problem. These things have been on sale for probably a couple of years, and nobody seems to have experienced this but me. I don't know why I'm special. I've tried these on both sides of the car, in both the standard and Shelby drop positions, and I get the same problem as soon as I tighten the nuts. They will not pivot. So, aftermarket screwing us again here with not making things exactly as they should be. And it's not like we don't know how to make them. Unfortunately, these, when you take these nuts or caps off, because of these are really fine threads in here, they're very easy to strip, especially if you use an impact, and that makes them junk. You really can't rethread those very easily. You need a really special tap to do that. Plus you got to cut the ball joints out, and then these are 4 bolts versus the 3 of the replacement. And the whole thing's just a giant cluster. So, do not recommend these aftermarket upper control arms. At this stage in the game, I may actually just be going to tubulars. It was not in my original plan. I didn't see any real benefit from doing those on a street car. However, the way they are made, they do not have these stamped and flanged pieces on here. It's just a bracket where the pivot is that bolts on. So that should not be an issue at all with one of those. Well, is it possible to make these Moog and or Dorman control arms work? Yes, and I'll show you how I did it. But what you're trying to achieve here is a full range of motion, and you want to be in a position where this control arm can go all the way up and just touch the shock tower. Now, it doesn't actually have to travel that far because the bump stop plate goes up here, and then there's a bump stop that hits this. Keeps it from going up too far. But you want to be able to have that full range of motion. So let me take this off and show you the back side. So we knew that the control arm was hitting the shock tower at the back here. So I got some washers, and I wanted to see just how far out the control arm had to be for this to clear. So I got these thick washers. These measured about 3/16 thick, and put those on, and they were enough to get clearance for this thing that it would pivot correctly. So that was good. So the first thing I tried to do is I tried to indent the shock tower with some clearance for these angles, and that didn't work. That metal's too thick, although you can move the shock tower metal if you wail on it. It really wasn't in a position where you could do it here. So instead, my brand new $100 a piece control arms just got wailed on and flattened until they cleared. And I am not proud of this, and certainly would not want to do this, nor recommend it, but that's pretty much the only way. So I had these back in and out several times till I could get them fitting in a way that they worked, and now they have full travel. Because you don't want these even to graze, because if they do, they're gonna squeak against the metal. So that's no good. Conclusion: can you use them? Yes, if you destroy them. Maybe not destroy, but if you make them a little ugly. Looking at this upside down, so this part down here, which still sticks out, doesn't really matter because of the way this pivots. This upper part's really what you got to flatten out, and you can't just do the edge. You got to actually get this back side to roll over too. But you don't want to cut it, because then you lose this area of strength here to keep this from cracking or fatiguing. I was very close to buying tubular control arms. I just couldn't swallow the price for what I think this car is going to be asked to do. It's not going to be an open track car or anything like that, so I didn't see the need. But if I were to do it again and did not feel like having to pay shipping to send these back and then get something else, I probably would have gone with some tubular arms, to be honest. Street or Track, I think, is a brand that has a good reputation that I would probably recommend. I think they're about the middle of the road in pricing. There's another one that Summit sells. It's less. That's probably okay. Looking at the design of it, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. So those are your options with these. Either you mash them to make them fit, or you buy something else. There just is no direct fit replacement right now, apparently. These are just not made correctly. There's just too much space between this nut and the back of this. So there's the conclusion. I will do a re-upload on this to add this section, because I didn't have this in the original video. And hopefully that helps the next person that has to struggle with this before you just bolt them on and then wonder why your wheels don't move. Let me know if that was a help to you, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.